welcome, welcome. Please join me in taking a deep, long breath in and letting it out. Deep, long breath in and letting it out slowly. Hey, Leslie. Good to see you. So welcome. I'm happy to be here. This is my live. Those of you that are just new to this, this is day 19 of 30 days going live. I had a download, I guess it's a couple weeks now ago, to go live for 30 days on social media, 30 days in a row. And so this is me following my intuition and listening without having any type of reason why, although I can see some of the lessons unfolding and the things that I'm learning, and it's been really nice, the connecting that I've done with people. So thank you to all the people that have been watching me and making comments and giving feedback. I really appreciate it. And just the process itself has been super cool for me. And so I'm happy to serve. And so, all right. So today I was sitting, I just ran out for an evening errand, and I got so tired when I got back, and I'm like, okay, I sat down to meditate. I lit my candle and my incense, and I saged and did some of my witchy things and sat with what would serve the highest and best for anyone that sees this today or sees the replay. And what came through was to go on a continuation of what I talked about last night. Last night we talked about, hey Gracie, last night we talked about inner child work and why it's important and what it looks like and how to do it. And I shared some of my personal experiences with inner child work. So if you're curious, you can go back and listen to day 18. Today is day 19. And some of the comments that I received were to expand upon journaling, right? So what I talked about in that live was when we do the inner child work and we want to be able to take all the thoughts that are swirling out here, right? We all have thoughts. I know I've had clients that are like, well, I don't really like to journal. I'd much rather just think things through. And that has a very valid point. And also the benefits of journaling are great if you give yourself time to sit and think about it. Hey, Kim. So journaling has its own benefits. So yes, it is those people that are like, I don't like to journal. I'd rather just think it through. And I get it. And it actually makes a lot of sense. And also, one of the main benefits of journaling is that it takes these thoughts that we have that are swirling around our heads, and in order to be able to write it out, you have to laser in so that you can create words, because we're also dealing with the limbic part of the brain, so we have emotions going on. And so when we journal, it allows us to kind of like a funnel to tighten it up. And then when we read it back to ourselves, a lot of times we receive it in a new way. So I thought I would share a story, since part of my intention of doing 30 lives in 30 days is to share wisdom that I've gained and practiced over the years that I also share with clients and students, and also to start sharing some stories, which I've done throughout, this is day 19, which is like unbelievable for me. And so I've been sharing some personal stories, some sharing vulnerabilities, and so I'd love to share how I got into journaling in the first place. And so I think everyone has one teacher that, like, think back, and do you have one teacher that you remember their name and they made an impact on you. So I'll just pause for a second. I'm going to take a sip of my water. Think about that one teacher that made a difference for you. Well, for me, and if he's out there, it's Mr. Coleman. Oh, see, somebody wrote Mrs. Griffith. Yeah, see? So the teacher that made a difference to me was Mr. Coleman. And Mr. Coleman was my English teacher sophomore year of high school. So sophomore year, we're like 15. So, of course, you know, we come into class and everybody's chit-chatting and the whole thing. But in Mr. Coleman's class, he was a younger dude, and I got the vibe. He didn't dress like a hippie, but I got the vibe that he was kind of hippie-ish. But his classroom rule was that you come into class, you open up your notebook, and you start writing. And then, of course, as teenagers are, we challenged him, or some of the students challenged him, and said, well, what if I don't know what to write? Then I'm not going to journal because I don't know what to write. So Mr. Coleman's answer was, then that's what you write. And he goes, just keep writing over and over again. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And he said, and do that until a thought comes through. He goes, and I guarantee a thought will come through. And there were plenty of times where I came into class, you know, you're going down the hall and you're trying to get to class on time, and I definitely, like many of the times, did not know what to write. So I would just write. I don't know what to write. I don't know what to write. And unequivocally, every time something would come through. And then I would start writing things. And why was this a big deal for me? Why was this such a great gift for me? And probably so many other teenagers in his classes. Because the gift of writing, it gives you a place, as I said, first of all, it takes the wideness and the busyness in our heads and our thoughts, and it has us hone in, because you can't write. There's a process that has to happen for you to be able to form words and to be able to write on the paper. The other thing, too, is that it gives you a place to vent, right? A private place. If you're writing in a journal and you know that people around you are not going to go ahead and read it, right? That you have a place where you can share your most personal thoughts, and it's a place that it's almost like having a friend. So, hey, Mindy, it's almost like having a friend when you journal. And so as a teenager, many of you, if you think back to the times that you were a teenager, and you know, how many times did you not want to share your feelings with another person, or perhaps you felt alone, or perhaps you were so busy with your friends and social life that you didn't have time for emotions and didn't want to think about them. So in Mr. Coleman's class, we had to. It was literally, you must come in, sit down, and start writing. And I think it was for 8 minutes. So 8 minutes straight. And for me, what it opened up was a place that I can share some very personal feelings and just write about things that were happening that were super uncomfortable. And it gave me a place to let it out, things that I was holding in. So, and that form of journaling is called free writing, right? So that's when you just go ahead and you just commit to your pen continuing to write, and that's free writing. So, and to tie it into yesterday with the inner child work, if you're doing inner child work and you have an experience, and then afterwards you want to sit down and write about what happened, you can set your timer on your phone, right? In Mr. Coleman's class, he was obviously watching the time. He was the teacher. He was essentially the space holder. But when you're doing it by yourself, you can set the timer. And then this way you have this, you set up this essentially a container, this container of time where you can start to write and free write. And it doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be complete sentences. It doesn't have to have capitalization and punctuation. It could even be just like keywords, because you're the only one that's reading it. And the whole point is for you to get in touch with what's happening inside of you and get it out. And you'd be amazed what comes out, because sometimes you don't even know what's in your head until you start journaling. And that is the magic of journaling. So that was the gift that Mr. Coleman gave me sophomore year of high school. So that's the free writing. Then as I grew in my life and I went through different types of therapy and different types of modalities that I was trained in, and also took as a student or client of different coaches and classes, one that was very helpful for me, those of you that follow me are typically highly intuitive and highly empathetic and sensitive. So if you are one of those people, you might want to try this. And I call it channeled journaling. And that means that you think about something, perhaps you're looking for guidance or just some sort of answer to something. So you ask it in your head and you write it down with your dominant hand. So maybe it's something simple like, should I go out with, whatever, a guy, or I don't know. But anyway, just think of a simple question, and you would write the question with your dominant hand. Then you would take a breath and put the pen down. You could put your hands on your heart, take a deep breath in and out, and ask for your wise self to come through, your higher self, right? The higher version of you, the you that is more connected to source. And ask that version of you, the version of you that's unaffected by all the details that happen in life, all the emotions, and ask that part of you to channel through. And you're going to put the pen in the opposite hand, so your non-dominant hand. It'll slow you down in the writing, and the writing will be a little more difficult to read, but it's amazing. It kind of shifts to the other part of your brain, and you'd be amazed at what comes through, especially as you practice it. So we have free writing journaling, and we have channeled journaling with the opposite hand. And then, of course, the third way of journaling is to follow somebody's prompts. So kind of like a call and response type of journaling, where if you're working with a coach like me, that, perhaps I'm giving you some journaling prompts because I'm guiding you to go into something that we've been working on. And so that's just another way. That's probably the most common way that people know. That people will look up prompts online. Or if you've already worked with a teacher, taken a class, worked with a mentor, then that's how you would do that kind of journaling. Something else that is not a type of journaling, but something that you can do while you're journaling. And I mentioned it yesterday, and I'll kind of tie it in here because some people were asking me to go into it. And that is called rescripting. I'm trying to remember where I learned rescripting from. I think I learned it from an online class a while ago, like more than 10 years ago. But anyway, rescripting is pretty cool. So rescripting would require you to get into a meditative state first. So that's where the deep breathing would come in, connecting to your heart and connecting to your higher self. And once you get into this meditative state, you can call in a situation that you really wish was different. That you wish that you wish it didn't happen that way. Maybe it's something that you wish You wish you would have said something, or you wish you didn't say something, or you wish you did something, or you wish you didn't do something. But whatever it is, you wish it was different. And the idea of rescripting is that you get to use the power of your mind. And so you go back in and you start to play the situation out. You start to listen, start to go through it in your head. And after you play this out in your head, you can pause at the points, the pain points, the points that you're just like, ugh, right? Have you ever, if you've ever thought about a situation where you're just, it's like cringeworthy, right? I could think of one right now that happened to me at the end of last year. And, I've mentioned in previous videos that I have experienced what's called freeze in the world of nervous system responses or trauma responses. And so I was in a situation where I wished that I had said some things. I couldn't even think of it until like a day or two later. That's how much it shut me down. And of course I did the work around it. So the rescripting would be, I go back and I start to relive the situation. Not relive it, I'm sorry. You don't relive it. You go back and you watch it like it's a movie. So you don't put yourself back into the situation, but you come back in as the observer so that you're not re-experiencing all of the trauma that happened. Right? I once had a client that came in for energy healing, just as a side note, and she went through this therapy that had her re-experience her trauma over and over and over again. I was heartbroken to hear that that's something that happens out there. So the rescripting is not that. Rescripting is you go back and you're kind of like reading a book. You're kind of observing it, but it's distant, right? And then of course you could always tap on some of the key points, like right underneath. Here's the collarbone. Underneath your collarbone is a really good one if you ever want to just start to down-regulate your nervous system right away. So if you're thinking about, like if I'm thinking about that situation that I wished that I was able to speak what I wanted to say, and I get to that point where it feels cringeworthy, so I start to breathe a little slower, breathe a little longer, and tap. Anyway, so in rescripting, you're kind of writing about this situation, but then once you get to the cringe point, that's when you connect with your inner child, or not even your inner child, but your imagination self, right? The place where anything is possible, where you're in quantum time. There is no past, present, or future. Well, there's present, but there's no past or future. So everything's happening in the present. Everything's happening at the same time. So at that point, you're going to write it as if it's happening now, the way you wanted it. So I would, in that situation, I would go back to like, okay, we were standing and da-da-da, and they said this, and then I would write, I said da-da-da, and I would write the things that I wished that I had said in that moment. And as I'm writing it, I would allow my heart to stay open, which is why I love for you to tap in this area, so that I can start to feel the feelings of me saying that thing. And so that I get to live in the experience, in the script that I create. And yes, we know that on some level, that's not what happened. But when we talk to the brain this way, the brain doesn't know what you're saying to it is happening now, or if it's real or not real. So that's why it's so important, the words that we use to ourselves and the story that we tell ourselves about situations that we've been in and or that we are experiencing. So the rescripting is then you get to be the artist, and you already are the creator of your life, but in rescripting, you're literally rewriting the script of what happened. It's actually making me think now about probably I should go back and do that. I might have done that at that time. I think I actually just did mostly somatic work around it, which we'll talk about tomorrow. But yeah, so, and this can also tie into yesterday with the inner child work. So if you have, and I wouldn't do this until after you've already felt the feelings of what happened, right? So we want to first, yeah, so let me give you an asterisk here. We want to first process what happened, right? So we don't want re-scripting to be like a spiritual bypass tool where it's like taking the place of feeling the feelings of what happened. Like I needed to feel those feelings. In fact, I was, if you followed me for a long time, at the end of last year, I led a series of 4 Dharma talks, which was not a sister circle, could have been any sex could join, but it was a sacred circle. And we talked about meaningful subjects, and I picked 4 different subjects to present. And I was having a Dharma talk the next day after this happened. So I was like, I had to rev up my self-care like to 10 plus, and to dive in and use all the work that I have done in order to move through this, in order to not just endure it, but to move the energy through, come out the other side, so that I can hold space for a circle of people from a clean, clear, energetic space, which I was able to do. And so it was like a testament to all the work that I've done on myself, which I teach in mostly my programs, a little bit in my classes. So anyway, yeah. So I think we'll leave it at that. Let me just check in. Yes, and the other thing too is to just being guided to also make note that when you are processing any type of memory, any type of scenario, and you are journaling, it is okay to stop the journaling for a moment and tap, or while you're writing, to be really conscious of your breathing. So you want to make sure that if you are bringing up a story of something that has happened that is activating to your nervous system, you want to, even though you are writing and processing from the head, from the brain, you want to also incorporate the body, right? So we want to use breath. You want to maybe hug yourself, or again, the tapping is really great. Some key points, you don't even have to do the whole series of EFT. Literally, you could tap the collarbone, tap, 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 and some really other good places are right here in the smile lines, which these days, yes, they're showing a lot more. Smile lines are like a direct connection to the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is the largest nerve in your body and helps you regulate your nervous system. And what that means is to go from either freeze, where you're like, oh, I can't move, but inside you're screaming. You can move out of freeze into mobility. It can help you move out of fawn, which means you're saying yes when you mean no, or you're saying no when you mean yes. You're just kind of, but more normally yes when you mean no. You're kind of like people pleasing. It can help you move from any anxiety or depression into movement, right? So activating the vagus nerve that we do through breath work and lots of different things like that. So, all right, in summary, I am going to wrap this up because I am feeling super tired. People were asking about journaling techniques. So what I gave tonight was the free writing journaling technique, which again is setting the timer and go, go, go. Do not let your pen stop, and just get curious about what comes up. Don't worry about it being formal. Don't worry about it being in some sort of order. And then we have channeled writing, which is the opposite hand. Ask the question, get grounded first, tap into your higher self, and then have your opposite hand start to channel, right? So if you don't know that you're a channel, like it's interesting. Start to notice what happens when you write with your opposite hand, and don't even try to regulate it. Just let it come through. And then, of course, the third way is probably the most common way is you receive some journaling prompts. Obviously my one-on-one clients get a lot of me, right? They get the pre-recorded meditations, they get the journaling prompts, and then they get the feedback from me in session and in between sessions. But you can find journaling prompts, just Google, journaling prompts to process and whatever it is you're processing. And that's an easy way to just kind of answer a question. And then, of course, I talked about using somatics while you're journaling, and also kind of tying into yesterday's video with the inner child work, where you definitely want to journal what you remembered, and as soon as you can, right? So the thing with dreams and with inner child work or coming out of any type of meditation, you want to write about it as soon as possible, even with medicine journeys, right? So you want to write about your journey, write about what happened as soon as possible. The sooner you do it to the time that it happened, the more you will remember. And then, of course, the last thing that I went over is incorporating the neck down, right? So if you would have talked to me 15 years ago, I would have only been talking about the head up, about journaling and processing, and this is why, and all of that is very important. But what I've learned over time and through moving through and healing through certain things that happened in my body was to incorporate the body. And of course, now I'm being called to it on an even deeper level. So, and just as a side note, so tomorrow we'll talk about somatics, but even yesterday I went into a deep 2-hour process with myself, and I felt so different today. And so I'm encountering some interesting health things, and so I'm giving myself an experiment about healing myself. So I'll keep you updated on that as more comes through. So that's really it. If you have any questions, feel free to send me a private message, whether you're watching this on Instagram or Facebook. And of course, I've been just putting it out there that if you have any requests of something that you would like me to talk about, whether it comes to your intuition, listening to your body's messages, how your body talks to you, or about being authentic, right? So that's your true self, which always, always, always means you must move through blocks to your authenticity. And a lot of times that means moving through trauma, which is why I talk so much about trauma and somatic work, because we get to process in our head and we get to incorporate our bodies with it for real sustainable healing, right? We want whatever we work on to sustain us, and that if, as you go through, once you awaken, and I'll just say this before I stop, once you awaken, you might, I've had people come back to me and say, but I thought I did this already. I thought I dealt with my mother issues, my father issues, my sibling issues. And the thing is, yes, you have. And, there was a great definition of what an initiation is in one of the cards I picked this week, but my journal is not here in front of me. So anyway, but we go through what's considered an initiation. And a lot of you are probably familiar with that word if you were in the Greek system in college, right? So those of you like myself, we went through a sorority or a fraternity, and we got initiated, and we had to do things to get, that was one kind of initiation. But the kind that I'm talking about right now is an initiation. It's like a moving through something usually difficult to help you embody the lessons that are coming through, so you can embody it into wisdom. And so if you have something, I talk about this a lot during Mercury retrogrades, right? That we have like 3 to 4 times a year. And a lot of times in retrograde, Mercury retrograde is about a redo a lot of times, most of the time. And so we go back and we redo, and it's like, why? Why are we redoing? Initiation a lot of times is the same thing. It could be a redo, or it could be something new that's really difficult. It's because we will only get the type of initiation that we are ready for, so that we can expand in our wisdom and our knowledge and our healing. So the one thing that I always come back to is to have faith in the unknown. So if you are coming into something that is challenging right now in your life, and you're at a choice point and you're not sure which way to go, if you're having anxiety and you're not sure what healer to use or what modality to work with, or to incorporate, your therapist with a mentor, or, therapy and energy work, or just go on the side of mentor and energy work, and you're not sure what to do, just know that if you just pause and stop and listen, and if you're going through something that feels big, this is an initiation. So it's not necessarily that something's wrong or bad, even though it can feel difficult. And so when you pivot your perspective in that way, you could take it on like a warrior, right? Like, okay, I'm here for it. Bring it on. I'm ready to learn whatever it is I'm supposed to learn here. So you open instead of close. Instead of, I've had people in my life before where, whenever I talk to them, they use the word bad, and it's so bad. And it's like, and honestly, when you say that, it's a judgment, and it kind of closes off the energy. There's no room for growth. But you can say, like, this is a challenge, right? So challenge, it gives you an opportunity to move through the challenge. And I know it can be really difficult. And some days we might just be like, everything is, I don't want to curse on here, but everything is SH. And that's okay. But then we also get to bounce back and say, okay, I fell down, I'm getting up, right? Fall down 7, get up 8. Get up again and say, what is the lesson? What is my next step? And accept it as an initiation, accept it as a warrior, in a love warrior, right? So in love frequency, that whatever it is, I'm here for it, I'm ready to learn from it, and I'm going to get the right support and surround myself with the right people so that I can keep my frequency high. So we just went into all of that from journaling. Anyway, so thank you for listening to me. Thank you for being here. And thank you for those of you that have been sharing your questions and about what you would like for me to talk more about. Totally open to that. I just channel. And so, I just ask, and then I allow it to come through. But I'm open to requests. And keep your eyes open, your ears open for next week. I've had some questions about my services, and I'll be announcing for July, which is next week already, about a summer special. So if you are interested in doing this work on like a really small scale, like a taste of it, this will be your opportunity to do so. All right, well, thanks for being here with me and letting me share. And if Mr. Coleman's watching, thank you so much. You made an impact on my life, and hopefully a lot of other people. But I can tell you that a lot of people learned about journaling through me, through the years of my coaching and my teachings, that I know that this is how we affect the world, right? So if you learn something, we learn, we teach. We learn, we teach, and that spreads out. The more people that do that, it's like the butterfly effect, and that's how we change the world. So just remember, like, share the things that you learned, and know that even if you share it with one person, you are making a difference that can change the world. So anyway, sending love and light. Namaste. See you tomorrow for day 20.